Cardi B has popped up pregnant yet again.
The truth is, this is irresponsible.
It feels like carelessness. It feels like pettiness.
But she's not no more reckless than Offset was.
Put the little IUD in until the divorce is finalized. Then you can pop that bad boy out.
You guys could have put on some protection out of respect for Offset.
Our girl, Saweetie, is having a little hard time. She's saying because of her appearance, instead of having pretty privilege, she's had a pretty struggle.
Walking through life amongst mediocre people who are insecure is a lot.
Most women who are pretty are more likely to be dismissed because people automatically assume they dumb as
Beauty does not shield you from critique. In fact, it's going to attract it. Why? More people are looking at you.
It can be a double-edged sword, but if given a choice, would you rather look like a 10 or a 3?
Welcome to yet another episode of the BLC Pod. And that was good timing, Jay. And I got all my people
With
me.
Him?
We're going to work on it.
See how they going to do? You see, that's cool. You're going to leave me on an island at the top of the show. That's okay, because I know how to swim. That's all right. And I am him. I got bars too. Anyways, of course, like I said, and I got all my people with me. And that includes y'all out there, right? Speaking of y'all out there, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and all that good stuff. Some of these conversations, man, be pressing buttons and we appreciate it. Continue to comment, right? Because y'all are our people too. That was a whole mouthful. Anyway, speaking of my people, Jay got the merch, y'all. Pew, 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 pew. That's right, y'all. Rocking the merch. We got the merch. If you need the merch, we got the merch. Shout out to Jay for rocking the merch. You know what I'm saying? And for rocking it. You guys don't know this. Every time a host wears a shirt, he gets a special prize. So congratulations, Jay, for you rocking your merch on this episode. The rest of us are losers. So don't be a loser out there. Make sure you get your merch as well. But speaking of having my people with me, the benefit of being the only girl on the show is she gets to go first a lot and speak for a whole group of people. Give it up for SNM Jones in the building! SNM Jones!
Okay, I'm done. Sorry, I'm extra animated today.
Let's go!
You know what I'm saying? I'm extra animated. I actually had a nap, and so that may be part of the reason. It wasn't due to alcohol. I'm telling you right now. It wasn't due to alcohol. It was a nap. The powers of the nap. But anyways, with that being said, I'm happy to be on the show. And to be honest, I kind of want to steal something from somebody else that said they was going to say something, but I'm going to try not to do that. And I'll wait till they comment so I can add a little piece to something about treating your man right this month.
Okay. And look at you taking the first step, right? Of not doing the thing that some women would have done. I salute you, SNM. Good looking out. Yeah, that deserves calling out for sure, right? As men, we got to call out great things when we see it. Shout out to SNM for doing and being a great person. Anyway, speaking of great people in the building with me, I got my man. His name says Just Jay, but he's more than just a letter of J. Talk to him. Talk to him.
Man, what is up, all my people? I'm glad to see y'all here, of course. Glad for everybody tuning in. You know, speaking of tuning in, I've been like getting my my documentary on or whatever, right? And Issa, she's got a documentary out called Seen and Heard. It is dope. It just, of course, it has a LGBTQIA bias, whatever. But underneath that, the underlying tone is just the voice of blackness, right? And how the voice of blackness has been nurtured, and the march that needs to go on, and owning our own voice and owning our own media, which is why I love being here on the BLC Pod. You better listen close. But yo, if you get a chance, check that out, man. I'd love for y'all to check it out. Tell me what y'all thought. I got another thing I want y'all to watch too, but I'll tell you after the show. But yeah, that's where I'm at with it.
Listen, that wasn't an ad. Jay really meant that. But if you're watching this and you're like, you know what, that'd be a dope ass ad, hit us up, man. hello@theblcpod.com. Okay. You know what I mean? Now, if you hit up Jay on the side with the payola, at least give a brother a cut, but I don't think Jay would do that. I'm saying the best way to do this is hit us up at hello@theblcpod.com. So he really meant that though.
I did mean Jay. It was good.
He really meant that.
It was emotional.
Okay?
I was encouraged. I was stirred.
Absolutely. Now, we appreciate that. Speaking of stirring things up, I mean, maybe with facts, maybe with numbers, maybe not. I got my man Del the Funky Hopo Sapien. Is that I'm sorry. Delvin the Expert. You know the rapper from like the 90s? I'm not that old by myself.
Yeah,
Y'all remember
he didn't get enough credit. Criminally underrated.
Right?
Criminally underrated, man. You guys
Thank
better
you,
put
Del,
some
for having
respect
my
on
back.
Del the Funky Homo Sapiens' name, man. Okay?
What's happening, brother? Thank you, Del.
Man, you know what? I'm glad to be back for another week. And, I'm doing my show prep like we always do this week. And I'm also checking the websites to make sure you guys aren't on there. So I stroll over to sisterwives.com, make sure you guys aren't on there. And they did it. Okay, Jay's on there. But
I'm on there.
checked their latest survey because I got to check the numbers. I got to make sure the numbers are good. And it turns out Atlanta, Georgia is leading the nation in the most polyamorous city out there. Followed by Houston and Dallas is a close second, but that's amongst the millennials and Gen Zs. Not sure what the Gen Xers are doing. I got to go back to sisterwife.com and do some more research. But that's the latest on the Black dating scene. So I'll keep you guys posted when I get some more numbers. But those are my latest numbers for this week.
Now, listen, that's another layup. I feel like you're like the Scottie Pippen out here, man. You just be setting me up, bro. Like the layup, the live. You know what I mean? Because speaking of great cities, listen, man, I know some of y'all may or may not know about Medellin, Colombia, but it's a great city. It's a city I've enjoyed for many reasons. Now, I know some of y'all might be thinking, well, of course, Nick, we know why you'd be enjoying it, but you'd be wrong, right? If you assume it's just those things, right? You're talking about environment, you're talking about climate, you're talking about cost of living, quality of life, right? Doing business. And so I'm honored to present the fact that anybody who would say Nick doesn't love women for real, bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Because the work that I put in as the marketing director for Seamless, I think will speak to how much I love women. Imagine me helping to curate a trip for Black women who want to feel good, who want to feel rejuvenated. You know what I'm saying? Sister, if you ain't feeling like people appreciate you, Nick appreciates you if don't nobody else care. You know what I'm saying? So I am honored, right? We got the Glow Up Girls Trip this MLK. What better time to set yourself free? Like MLK dreamed for us to be there to enjoy each other's company in Medellin. That's right. Check out the website below, right? Use the code BLC Pod and you'll get $100 off. Come on, man. I mean, who but me loves y'all like I do? Okay, so check it out, right? Seamless Cosmetic Travel. You want to get your glow up? Check it out. That's right. This show is sponsored in part by, and this is so great. This is our first sponsored in part by. Like this, I'm so excited. Oh, and to serve Black women. Stop playing with him. Anyways, we got a great show lined up. I'm so excited. So anything I say beyond this point doesn't have anything to do with what I said just now. I love y'all. Okay? I don't want y'all to be listening with y'all emotional ears and be like, he just said he loved us. Yes. Because to love you is to cater to you, to make sure you're good and soft and feel great. But it's also some tough love. So just give a brother some slack, okay? With that being said, tell me, man, what we talking about? You know what I mean?
Speaking of relaxing and the glow up and looking your most radiant and best, our girl Saweetie is having a little hard time in the industry. She's saying because of her appearance, she's, instead of having pretty privilege, she's had a pretty struggle. It's been a little difficult for her because with her appearance, it's maybe made the guys not take her serious. It's a pretty male-dominated industry. We've heard this from some female artists before, that they've had to work a little harder to prove themselves, be taken seriously. So that does beg the question, we have pretty punishment. Is that the inverse of pretty privilege? Can that actually hinder you in your career and trying to be your most competent boss babe, top of the level version of yourself in your chosen field? In this case, it's being in entertainment. So what do you guys think? Is pretty punishment a real thing?
Keeping it consistent, I'm going to come right out the gates and I'm going to call cap. I'm going to call all caps. I mean, like the cap is locked and the key is broken off and you can't change it. Just cap. Saweetie say pretty privilege comes with punishment. Okay. And all I hear is the world's smallest violin. Let's be real. Okay. That's like saying white men are discriminated against in America. We know that ain't true either. I'm just saying neither one's a real thing. Being pretty is not a punishment. It's still a privilege. If she's feeling like she catches some kind of flack, people aren't respecting her because she's pretty. No, it just means that your pretty got you in the door and they asking what else you're going to do now you're there, because talent speaks for itself, right? And if people are responding negatively to your pretty, maybe it's not your pretty. Maybe it's your personality that needs a little glow up. The reality is when talent gets questioned, beauty becomes the excuse. It becomes a scapegoat. But beauty does not shield you from critique. In fact, it's going to attract it. Why? More people are looking at you. Maybe they expect more. But every privilege comes with scrutiny. Deal with it. For men, it's money. For women, it's looks. It's not oppression. It's opportunity cost. That's the cost, lady, of your privilege. Y'all go ahead. Say what you got to say.
So I just want to jump off, Mike. Nick, did you want to jump in?
No.
Okay.
I was like, wow, Jay made a strong case. S&M, I'm all ears to hear what you have to say.
That's pretty compelling.
Okay,
There
so
was.
first, the comparison to white men and prejudice and discrimination in the U.S., that's a stretch. I'm calling cap on that. That was straight up bullshit and quite a stretch, because we already know that shit don't exist in the current state, especially in America. Now, you saying pretty privilege or pretty punishment doesn't exist, but it does exist, because yes, it did get her into the door, but they automatically assume that she didn't have any brains. They automatically assume that she may not have any talent. And as a matter of fact, most women who are pretty, while they do have some privilege and perks that come with it, they also are more likely to be dismissed, because people automatically assume they dumb as fuck. That's why you have the comment, blondes are dumb. Or the prettier you are, the more likely they're going to assume that you lack intelligence. So for some reason, pretty up, IQ down. And that's a problem. So when she talks about, in her case though, I'm going to just go a little side eye, because it could be her talent in her case in particular. However, overall though, when we talk about pretty privilege, it is a real, or pretty punishment. It is a real thing. And as a matter of fact, I just want to point out one other thing too. Just because somebody's pretty, it doesn't stop them from not being hollered at in a negative or derogatory manner, or being devalued as a human, because sometimes you only objectify them because all you see them as being pretty. So therefore you immediately classify them as a sex object, a tool, and so forth. And let's not forget all the stalking, harassment, and other things that come from just because somebody's pretty. Like, that's where sexual harassment originally originated. Although I will admit sexual harassment tends to be more about power than actually about looks. So I'm calling cap on what the hell you just said, because yes, talent does get her through or her looks did get her through the door. Talent should have had her stay. But overall, there is such a thing that we actually don't talk about when it comes to being pretty. So to you.
I gotta tell you.
And
wow.
let me put this back on you, S&M, and I want to get you guys all's take on it. Do you think it makes a difference for the privilege if it's a male-dominated industry versus a heavily female-dominated industry? Do you think that plays how that affects things?
Oh, Lord have mercy. Let me tell you right now, women are the biggest haters of other women. I'm going to go ahead and put that out there. And as a matter of fact, women are more likely to hate on the pretty woman because they assume she has it all just because she's pretty. Like, oh, she's probably getting free drinks. She probably got a husband. She probably got this. There's a bunch of assumptions that are made just because she's pretty. And so women are the biggest hater. It don't matter what field you're in. The women are the biggest hater. And as much as I hate to say that, because we should be uplifting each other, but unfortunately, that's not what happened, because we've always been pitted to compete, apparently, except for relationships. But we've always been pitted to compete against each other. So, yeah, I was like, and then the male-dominated industry, the difference is there's a sexual component to it, where there's an expectation that, hey, if you want to get far, go ahead and lay on your back. You know, there's some type of expectation, particularly in the entertainment industry. But for women on women, that's another sound effect for them. I think that's going to be my sound effect for this whole episode. Let me stop.
Okay. You might want to practice it a little bit. Listen, I got to tell you, yesterday, you were cooking up into that sound effect. I mean, you was out there just I heard the sizzle. I mean, Jay started out the gate with a very compelling argument. I was like, wow. And then you spoke, and I was like, well, damn, right? And I feel like you won that argument in my heart, right? And I'm going to tell you why. Because, Jay, your flaw was that you said it didn't exist. I agree with you that the thing can exist. Well, no, the small violin part was what resonated with me from your argument, but that suggests that you may have a thing to complain about. Maybe it's just that nobody cares. And that's, I think, the correct position. But I think where you was wrong was to say that it didn't exist, right? Because that's a lie, right? It's an absolute lie. And I think SNM broke down many of the reasons why that it does exist, especially in a male-dominated industry, especially like hip-hop, especially when sex and expectations are dripping. Maybe the problem was that she wasn't giving it up. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But, well, she was at one point, I think, to Quavo, and he didn't help her career much. So I don't know what the excuse is in terms of why her career didn't pop off. It would seem that she had all the things laid out for her in terms of, you know, being successful, and she just wasn't. Maybe her focus wasn't in it. I mean, listen, Cardi B doesn't really do a lot of her own music. She was cute. She has personality, true, but she had a bunch of writers and producers around her. So I don't know why Saweetie couldn't have had the same type of treatment. Maybe she has a point. I don't know. Now, if you're talking generally speaking, I agree with SNM. Like, yo, listen, as a man, I got to tell you, there's been some cases where I've been the bad bitch, believe it or not, right? And sometimes it's really hard to know if a person is taking you seriously for real. If your focus is on business and they only see you as X, whatever it's for your looks or for your wallet, but you're genuinely trying to make a connection or you're genuinely trying to find people to work with who are honest, if people only categorize you a certain type of way, that can hold you back. And then you got to deal with their expectations unto you that has nothing to do with what you're trying to do. You know what I'm saying? No, nigga, I don't want to fuck you. You know what I'm saying? I'm just here to fucking do my thing. Yes, I look good, but goddamn, like, put your dick back in your pants. So I do think there are ways that women got to deal through some nigga shit, and that's a drawback. But at the end of the day, my final verdict is I agree with Jay. Cry me a fucking river. Nobody's going to sit here and be like, oh my God, I'm being held back. Listen, you don't hear me complaining about how big or never mind. Like, the whole point is you got to take your blessings like everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, what the fuck are you complaining for? God blessed you with your looks, your money, or whatever. Like, take that shit like a man. You know what I'm saying? Or like a woman. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day. You feel me? And maybe if she took it like a woman, she'd be furthering her career. She's giving stingy vibes. You know what I'm saying? Maybe she should be a little bit more giving and life will give back to you, Saweetie. You know what I'm saying? But go ahead.
Yeah, I think in this particular case, I mean, because a lot of very attractive women have made it big in the entertainment industry, so we've got a baseline of comparison to look at. And to your point, Nick, it's probably got more to do with just the marketing and the A&R and the writers and the marketing budget. That's probably got more to do with it than anything, and of course your talent as well. But plenty of attractive women have made it. And I'm pretty sure there aren't a lot of really good wicked women who are like, damn, if I only look like, somebody beat me in the face with a bag of nickels, I would just be this much further in my life. Nobody's saying that. It can be a double-edged sword. Sure, most things are. But if given a choice, would you rather look like a 10 or a 3? Most women are going to choose a 10 and take their chances. So at the end of the day, it's probably got more to do in this case with your personality, your talent, and that X factor versus, man, my looks are just holding me back, man. I got to ugly myself up so I can go be a success. Nobody's doing that.
No, whoa. That's not true. I got to push back real quickly before we move on.
Okay.
Because let me tell you why. No, because we do live in a culture where people do have to dim their lights a little bit or feel like they have to dim a little bit themselves, right? In order to fit in with the rest of these motherfuckers. Like, for a pretty girl, I know girls who are just super humble, but even with their humility, they'll get hated on. So, like, even when they just step in being themselves, so imagine if they turn up just a little bit, right? So people got to tiptoe around these insecure motherfuckers who can't recognize that, hey, the reason why I'm hating on this person is because, oh my God, look how beautiful they are. Can you imagine how hard, imagine even being smart, right? Or that black kid who spoke really well and the rest of the niggas could put two sentences together. So it was better to pick on him and call him being white. No, nigga, I'm just educated or just smart. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm going places. Like, I'm just saying we're far too comfortable letting mediocre people affect people who are exceptional. So I do think it is important to point out that if she is exceptional in looks, fuck that shit, girl. Be exceptional in your looks. Fuck that shit. Like, be authentically you. Maybe the problem for her is she's been fake humble this entire fucking time, right? And people's not buying whatever her essence is, right? Maybe that's part of the core of her issue. Like, she doesn't have a story that people can buy into. But it is important to call out, like, people who are just exceptional or stick out, they have a hard time of dealing with the rest of y'all who just can't deal with their exceptionalism. You know what I'm saying? It don't require much. So it does create impediments for that person, right? Believe it or not. Because SNM's point, can you imagine if the women are hating everywhere she's going? Oh, who the fuck is she? Why is she over here? Oh, I'm going to keep my man over here. Like, walking through life amongst mediocre people who are insecure is a lot, man. So I'm just pushing back. Like, just deal with it. I get it. Yes, please deal with it. But we got to address y'all too. You know what I'm saying? You want them to deal with it, deal with your insecurities, okay? Find areas in your life that you're exceptional in so that you can feel better about people, okay? Stop it. But go ahead, man. I had to say that shit, yo. Shit's tiresome maneuvering amongst you mediocre people. It's hard work. God
Lord
damn.
have mercy.
Go ahead, man.
I was
I
like,
appreciate Nick calling out the mids.
Come on, man. God, like, it's bad enough that you're mid, but you got to get in the way of the rest. Come on, man. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
that is crazy about the mid, but apparently speaking of some mid and some essence being left, I know, right? But anyways, so Cardi B has popped up pregnant yet again. And when I say yet again, meaning that she is pregnant by her latest boyfriend or boy toy, Stefon Diggs. And so I'm curious as to what do you guys think about this, especially since she's still technically married to Offset. Although they've been separated for 2 years, she still is married. So is this a flag on the play?
It's absolutely a flag on the play, man. Come on, man. What we talk? Listen, I don't give a fuck what Cardi does with her but JJ, okay? But when you start to bring life into this world, right, while you're still legally married to someone else, at some point in time, is nobody going to say anything? Like, it's all fucking, everything is cool now. It wasn't good enough that they was fucking. Like, can you just hurry up the divorce? I mean, I get it. Maybe he's holding off, but were you in a rush to have another kid or just being irresponsible? Like, I mean, look, I love Cardi. I love her music. I hope her album goes well, right? It's just coincidental she's always dropping babies when she's dropping albums. I don't know. Maybe the timing is crazy. I don't know, right? I mean, hopefully this album does. This is the most elaborate rollout I've ever seen. It includes a baby. You know what I'm saying? Had a court case. You know what I'm saying? She on the corner of the street at the bodega selling CDs. I mean, Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I hope she sells 1 million fucking records. But I don't know how it works in New York. Maybe I should do more research, right? When you're in a marriage and you have a baby, is it like low-key, couldn't he be responsible for this child that is not even his for real? Like, if everybody knows that? Like, I mean, listen, to each his own. This is not a referendum on Cardi specifically, because fuck it, Cardi's been Cardi. She was at the strip club, she was robbing niggas, and then she became a pop star. We all love her and all that shit. Cool. So she's not the icon. Well, she should be an example for young girls, but maybe she is sometimes. So it is worth having the conversation about at what point in time, like, ill. Like, can we get to the ill? And just be like, it's ill. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't do that. We would not, advise people to do this. Right? Like, because you got way too much money, way too much popularity, way too much responsibility, and way too much access to birth control. You know what I'm saying? Like, was this planned? Because if it was a rollout, then let me shut my mouth, right? Because if you specifically planned to do this, it's made sense in your mind, then let me shut up, because I don't see the bigger picture. You're right. My bad. But if it wasn't, is it speaking to irresponsibility across the board? Whether it's relationships or professionally. You got an album coming out. You got requirements and responsibilities to a label that you've been dragging your feet about putting out an album for. No wonder they're probably going to break up with you after this, right? It looks like they're not giving you the support for a reason, because you seem to be making bad choices and not delivering on the thing that people are expecting you to deliver on, except for babies. And I guess who depended on you to do that? It damn sure wasn't Offset, right? So listen, in conclusion, in my summation, I just think, y'all, we got to make better choices. That's all, right? We can lick this thing. Again, there's no knock, there's no hate. There's a little bit of judgment, but it's a show. We got to entertain y'all niggas. But the truth is, this is irresponsible. And it's okay to say that, because there's no way on God's green earth you planned for this to happen now in this situation. We got to call a thing, right? Cool. And so now that we've done that, I hope that the rest of y'all niggas are not sitting here looking at this as some fucking example of how you should behave, especially y'all young motherfuckers, right? Y'all can't be this fucking stupid, this fucking slow, and this fucking drunk off celebrity shit, right? So maybe I'm the uncle at the fucking barbecue having to tell y'all this, because the rest of y'all niggas either down with this or you're not. So I'm really talking to the young people who probably shouldn't be watching the show in the first place. Don't be like Cardi, okay? Make better choices, okay? That's it, man. Y'all got it. Sorry, Cardi. We love you still. I still, hopefully. Go ahead.
I got love for Cardi. Okay, let me start off there. I did not like her when she first came out. Like Nick, I was like, this is not the role model I want my girls to follow. You know what I'm saying? This is not who I want them singing, not who I want them being like. Then she did some political stuff, So she got a little sense to her, you know what I'm saying? I was like, all right, maybe she's not just, just a stereotype. right? But I got SNM asked if this was a foul on the play. Yeah, this is several fouls. It's flags flying everywhere. It's offside on the defense and it's offsides on Cardi B. There's too many men on the field. Let me put it that way. So look, she's still married, yo. She's still married.
That was good, Jay.
Thank you. If a man did this, we would call him reckless, right? We would. But when Cardi B does it, it's like a storyline now, right? It's like, oh, it's Cardi, or that little laugh she does or whatever. No stones being thrown. I've been divorced and I have been married and I have not always been the perfect spouse. However, if you are in the process of dissolving your marriage, okay, you want to see somebody else? Hey, it's your life. Do your thing. You want to fuck somebody else? It's your life. The state might have a problem with that, but do your thing. You want to let the person you fucking nut up in you raw and just leave some semen and now you're making babies? Okay, now it's a little extra. Like you guys could have put on some protection just for out of respect for Offset. You know what I mean? Was there a rush to make a baby? What's the rush? You can't be rushing to make a family. You still married. So what is the rush? It feels like carelessness. It feels like pettiness. It feels like all these things that has a baby in the middle in a situation that's not stable. This is less about love triangles and more about what Nick was referring to, which I say is legal nightmares. And I was looking down because I was trying to find this line from Kendrick Lamar and Jhené Aiko. And he say, you know, we might break the record, you know what I'm saying, having triples of babies right now. And that might break the record. And no, that don't mean you fertile. It means you fucking reckless. Plus, you don't use protection. Go ahead.
Listen, I'm trying to get on the other side of this, but it is hard to defend. Look, you've been separated for 2 years. I know it's not just a little regular marriage. You probably got asset and millions of dollars and all other kind of celebrity shit to untangle. I get all of that. But put the little IUD in until the divorce is finalized. Then you can pop that bad boy out. It's just a bad look. And I'm not familiar with the laws and where they are. Somebody correct me on this. There could be some legalities in regards to the kid being conceived and them not being divorced. And I hate to see something happen like that if that is the case, but this could have waited. I mean, they got to have a way to expedite the divorce. Let's move this thing along. Listen, I want to go raw. I want to shoot the club up. We need to move this train along so we can make a baby. We can go half on a baby. Shout out to R. Kelly. We need to do this and we got to get this going because I can't wait. And I'm tired of using these condoms and this is just not fun because raw is law. I can't defend this. I'm sorry. Y'all go ahead, SNM.
Don't worry. I got y'all on the defense. Okay. So first of all, I don't got you too tight on the defense though. Cause, but let me go ahead and do the broad perspective first and foremost. Y'all kept talking about reckless, but she's not no more reckless than Offset was. And so at the end of the day, she's literally mirroring his behavior, but because it's with men, the men are uncomfortable about her mirroring back the behavior that Offset got. Now, what I will say is that she didn't have to get this baby, though. Like, she could have been the biggest whole bag of whatever the hell she want to call herself or whatever the universe want to call her. And as long as she didn't come up with a baby, because as we know, double standards exist. And they exist because for the most part, people are saying, well, as a woman, you should do this. So we're holding her to a certain standard just because she's a woman. And that standard is okay because, to be honest, if Offset would have popped up with a baby, we would have been clowning him too, saying, damn, first you cheated on her, now you got an outside baby too. So yeah, but technically the women, some women, not all, would say that she was just being reckless and got caught up, just like many men be reckless and get caught up. And so what's the problem? She got caught up. Why are we demonizing her for being caught up? Is it just because she is the woman? And so I personally would say, girl, please, you knew damn well what she was doing. The only credit I'm giving her is for the fact that she said she loved children and that she wanted more children. And so the fact that she loved and wanted more children, cool. If that's what you wanted to do and you know Offset is the one holding up the divorce, okay, so did you want to kind of stick in his craw that he's holding up the divorce? So let me pop up pregnant because, go ahead and sign. And this is the best way, if any way, to get somebody signed to make sure they don't end up on that document being named as the father. So to answer your question pertaining to who's the daddy on that birth certificate, technically, yes, he could actually be considered the father. However, the law in their particular state requires that she has to put him down as the father, and then he can contest it. And I don't think Cardi B is going to do that. But it's just a mere fact, the legalities of it itself was enough to say, hold on, slow your roll. Let's not do this. Because he could have sprayed up the club all day, but sprayed up in a condom. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Or
that's not fun.
put some birth control in place. And while birth control is technically negative, have negative ramifications on women depending on the type of birth control, it still things could have been done afterwards. Matter of fact, Stefon, he was crazy. They asked him about it and he joked. He was like, oh yeah, I heard something about it. So as far as I'm concerned, that sounds like a breakup is in the future for her. No, you know. So anyways, with that being said, I'm going to say it was a flag on the play as well. Although folks would say, hey, she's just been just as reckless as Offset. The difference is she got 9 months and 18 years. And is that the type of reckless that we want to endorse and support? Nah, I don't think so.
Okay, these are a good point. Listen, keeping in that line of people who love the kids, right? You know who else love the kids? Nick Cannon love the kids, y'all. And I want to talk about Nick today because Nick had an epiphany. I want to just dive in this a little bit, y'all. So get your take on it. So the brother admitted himself, 12 kids later, like, SpongeBob, 12 kids later, right? That this was a trauma response. He said, here's the question to you, actually. Is this about spreading legacy, right? Because, I mean, we people have been questioning him for a while. Like, dude, why all these kids with like 6 baby mamas? You averaging like 2 each. Sometimes it was 3, and now you got 12. Is it legacy or are you running from healing? And maybe he's answering that now. But then another question raises, are the women who are with him, are they complicit in enabling this pattern, like enabling what he's done? And then what does that say about Black fatherhood? Because he's like one of the notable Black fathers in the media right now, in the public eye, right? And it looks more like multiplication and mentorship, the way he's been doing it. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I'm pretty sure baby mama number 13 is ready to come off the bench. So they are definitely co-conspirators. I think there is something to do with this trauma response. I don't know. He didn't get real specific with it, but this is coming from somewhere. I don't think it's naturally like, hey, I want to have just a whole bunch of 13, 15 kids just because I can. But it's kind of giving like that nerdy kid who didn't really get a lot of women, when he was younger. Now that I'm rich and famous, like I just can't. So I'm going to do it. So maybe he was bullied when he was young, or he got rejected from the prom. Like I don't know, but it's definitely not a good look for Black fatherhood, because now whenever these things come up, everybody's like, well, what about Nick Cannon? So now I'm always in a position where I gotta, not all Black men are like Nick Cannon, the topic, whatever it is we're talking about. So Nick Cannon, stop putting me in a position where I have to, not all men are like you situation, because we love Black fatherhood, and not even just Black fatherhood, present Black fatherhood. And if you do have some trauma response, I hope it doesn't take 12 kids in. Maybe 15 or 20 kids in, you may come up with some other trauma that you discover. I hope that's not your path of discovery, because it's not healthy, and you're going to eventually run out of money. So if this is a response to something, your serial baby daddyism, stop producing kids to discover it. Go talk to a professional. You'll thank me later. Trust me, Nick. But that's my take. S&M, what do you think?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and co-sign on all of that. And I'm just going to add something else, though. I'm going to add just a little piece and maybe a little toxic, but we know why he had trauma. It was all about Mariah. We know he was hurt. His feelings was he was just butthurt when she didn't want to be with him no more. And now all of a sudden he was like, I'm just going to have a whole bunch of babies because this is going to give me worth and value. And while he said it was accidentally, and he even acknowledged that some of the women came up to him and was like, can you be my baby daddy? And so but he could have made the right choices. But he said he was making these choices from a place of trauma. But he never really identified the trauma per se, except for the one time throughout the whole interview where he alluded to his divorce with Mariah. And I said, bam, that's the trauma. Because he had this whole idolization of this woman. He had her on the wall when he was 12 and she was like 30. Now I'm just kidding. I don't know how big the age gap was. But he talked about how she was on the wall and he got his dream girl, the person he was dreaming about since he was a young prepubescent little boy. And then it ended up in divorce. So part of it was, oh my God, my feelings was hurt. I was rejected. So now I need to go sink my dick in some people to make myself feel better. And then the other part of it was, hey, guess what? Mariah's about to be part of the harem. She's going to be part of the harem. Let me make her baby number, even though she's baby mama number one, she's still part of the harem. And so how can you show all type of shade? At the end of the day, this is what I'm going to say, though. These women enable this bullshit behavior. And while Nic is clearly at fault as well, because it was his pee-pee during the shooting up at the club, he could have made some appropriate decisions. And I think it's more about the men taking the time to actually heal from whatever trauma they're dealing with, while the women who are being stupid ass and enabling this behavior because all they see is the bag, is still up to the men to practice seed control as well. So yes, he acknowledged they was throwing it all at him, and he could have been like, no, let me protect myself. Where's my chastity belt? But he didn't do that because he was talking from a place of trauma, aka Mariah dumped his ass. It's all good, Nic. I'm glad you getting the healing and that you deserve and desire and you recognize. But I'm going to go ahead and go with, I see baby number 13 in the future because you're pretty young. You're only 45 and, y'all can shoot up the club till y'all like 72. So good luck.
The sarcasm in your voice, your tone hurt the inner Nic. It was like a 12-year-old Nic that was just cringing every time I heard your sarcasm, because apparently the trauma of young boys are not of your concern, right? Like, I was about to do some fucked up shit. I'm not going to do it because I don't know if I want to be playful or if I want to be serious, right? I want to be serious. So let me just do that. Let me be playful. Not serious. Because so Nic Cannon got married to her when he was 27. They have a 12-year age difference. Now, I know that probably doesn't mean anything, but she was Mariah Carey, and he did, in fact, probably was raised with her. Like, we don't really appreciate celebrity, I think. Obviously, because maybe we're not celebrities. Maybe one day we'll appreciate it differently, depending on how we look at it, how many times we've been in proximity with a celebrity. But we do live in a celebrity-driven culture, so I can only imagine how a person who might have idolized, Mariah Carey, I remember growing up, Nic is younger than me, I remember feeling young when Dream Lover and all that came out. She was older, I guess 12 years or maybe 10 years older from me or whatever. And so, like, the idea that Nic Cannon from Drumline fame would come across Mariah Carey, who was with the most powerful men. So we can joke and we can laugh. I get it. It's funny. But I guess the empathic part of me can see how that relationship could have taken a lot out of him and could have fucked him up a little bit. We already know Mariah Carey's reputation for being a diva. So, and it's not like Nic was the most manliest of men. Maybe Dame Dash would not think so. We'll talk about that later on. So if he's just a really good kid, had the opportunity to become famous and, he sings a little bit, he raps a little bit. Even at the time, I don't know if I really saw people looking at that as like a balanced situation. So you talk about power. We talk about the power imbalance all the time, but I guess in this case, it doesn't matter. So my thing is, if he went after that, because he didn't have these many kids and women after that, and then the relationship didn't work out, and then this happens after the fact, I agree with you. It may be Mariah, but I think I'm just not going to, just for joking purposes, just wash over that. I think there's some credibility there in terms of maybe the impact that she had on him in the wake of the divorce, right? And there's a lot of different ways that when men go through divorce, maybe he didn't feel value within himself. Oftentimes, men would try to find value through their penises, right? A way to feel validated. And then if you're talking about looking for validation, what ultimate way that maybe men are validated than procreation? The fact that a woman would want to have my seed, right? That speaks to, I think, just a certain level of the law of the jungle, if you will, right? So there's a lot of reasons why just naturally, like, a person would want to do these things. I think what I would push back on, though, a little bit is I hate the word trauma so much to a certain extent, because it may be true here, and hopefully he's getting the healing, but people just throw that word around. Like, if you're out here enjoying, engaging, feeling validated by it, having sex with women, I think he also admitted to being a narcissist. So it's like, is this the trauma? Did the narcissism come from trauma? Do you need trauma for there to be narcissism? Can you be a narcissist without the trauma? And if so, does that mean you could do things like not have compassion or care for others and regard for others? So it's like all these words. I don't almost believe Nic. I don't know if Nic believes Nic and what he's saying. I remember there were stories about whether or not Nic was having these babies because he had a medical condition that he was hoping that one of these kids would be able to help him with. Y'all remember that? Am I the only one that remember that rumor? I mean, there are guys out here who are not Nick Cannon who are just out here randomly having sex, dropping off babies and not giving a fuck. Maybe that's a trauma response too. Or maybe they're just fuck niggas. You know what I'm saying? Maybe there's not a reason why, aside from just moving with their penises and egos while they made some of these choices, right? So in conclusion, maybe Nick is telling the truth, maybe he's not. I don't know, right? But I will say this, though. There's nothing wrong with the desire to procreate, man. You know what I'm saying? I do get that we want it to happen a certain type of way, but if adults come together, they have the wherewithal and the means, and they make choices. I mean, there's people who are being single parents with less money, less choice, less intention. You know what I'm saying? And they're moving with trauma too. So I feel like I get that y'all saying, oh, these women are enabling him. No, they're making choices as a grown adults themselves. Fuck your enablement. I'm not responsible for you. You know what I'm saying? If I came to you with a proposition, I wanted to fuck, get some money, and you down, nigga, what's up? I'm not thinking about, oh, I'm enabling you. Who gives a fuck? That's a you problem. You know what I'm saying? Adults out here are moving in that way. So for the moment that y'all expect people, or is he complicit? No, they're minding their fucking business. It just so happens that it does enable him. But in truth, a man with his money and wealth, stature, or whatever would find a bunch of women who would be open to his proposition. And there's women who were not open to his proposition who made worse choices, and their kid's daddy still ain't there. So I hear y'all with all this outcry about how he's moving, you know what I mean? And maybe that's the reason he has to come up with an excuse like, oh my God, the trauma, nah, nigga. You fell in love with the person. You fell in love with just nothing in the bitch. You fell in love with the idea of recreating yourself because maybe the narcissist part is true. All that other shit, I ain't buying it, man. I got it. So, no comfort.
You guys are too hard on pause, too hard on Nick. Pause again.
And not this Nick either. Okay?
Not that Nick either, right? Right. Not the nice one.
Not responsible, Nick. No.
Right. This Nick is responsible and nice. So Nick Cannon, I think he's onto something. I think that he's in the beginning stage. I think you guys are all right for the most part. I think he's in the beginning stages of starting to uncover something. So I won't repeat too much of what you've said, only in the sense that it lines up with what I'd like to add. I think the trauma from his divorce did send him down a road of poor decisions. I think that a lot of things happen. First, divorce is not an individual sport, right? The deterioration of a marriage is often not an individual sport. Neither are the injuries that you suffer as you go through that. Right. And sometimes it takes a while to figure out exactly how much you have suffered or how much you have been injured. The man got his dream girl. Right. And then it didn't work out. They had this family. The family like imploded. OK, now I would think some part of him was probably searching for something like that again. However, if he hadn't dealt with whatever issues did not allow him to be compatible in his first situation, then he probably would not be compatible in his second, third, fourth, or fifth situation. Right? Hence the trauma, right? Hence the need to heal, right? He created children because he could, but he never slowed down to ask, how do I create family, right? Just shout out to Delvin. He should have gone on sisterwives.com, should have gone to Atlanta and pulled him some people together. He could afford a big house to have them all there together because the problem really is, although he had enough seed to spread, he doesn't have enough time. He can't be in all these places at once. So although he has all the love for these children, every time one of them is getting him, the other 11 are not, right? Or maybe the other 10 if it's at the same baby mama house or whatever, right? And I said it because he didn't ask, how do I create stability? I've lived that personally. After my divorce, I was carrying residual trauma, right? I didn't even recognize it at the time. I made some questionable decisions. I will own that too. And maybe even some regrettable choices. And I did it because I hadn't healed. And I hadn't even admitted to myself that I needed to heal. And that's what I see when I'm looking at Nick Cannon, right? I think he thought that quantity could cover his pain. But family is about quality, the quality time, more than the quantity of the time. So until you address the wound, no number of kids will fill or fix the void. But brother, I'm glad that you're talking about it. I'm glad that you're starting to work through it. You know what I mean? And I wish you nothing but the best. And I hope that you get a prophylactic sponsor and that you can turn this whole thing around for the better.
I do got a quick question because I feel like I hear y'all want to say it's trauma. He's not. But how many women do you think it would take to equal one Mariah Carey? right? Like, cause if you looked at like how much money she got, you might be like, well, damn, if you're talking about a bunch of regular girls, shit, the number gets crazy, right? But like, he got 12, right? He got 12. I feel like 12 is not a bad number. It probably took 12 of them to equal the one. And that, cause like, think about this. Part of the reason why he's at this point is because he's matched it. You know what I'm saying? In his brain, he's probably like, you know what? I got 12. You know what I'm saying? Like, right? So now he's starting to heal, right? Maybe he just finally got to the point that hole that you said that couldn't be filled with these many women, in fact, it was filled by some of these women.
He filled it.
Took going through that. It took getting those kids, because all that heel talk, he's still going to have them kids. And the baby mamas, he gonna be healed, accomplishing that feat of going 12 for 1 on the back end of the Mariah. Plus, imagine, like, Mariah is like crack. No, she's like cocaine. Like, imagine you got Peru. Matter of fact, I'll give you a better analogy. You know how people go through like accidents, they have to get like the oxytocin or whatever, right? The really good shit, like from the doctors and stuff. And so Nic was that, right? He was getting that good shit with Mariah, right? And then at some point in time, the doctors stopped giving you the prescription. So now you out here trying to get that fix any way you can, right? And so these 12 women, right, were his hits. He's like, oh shit, it's heroin. I got a nigga up the street. So he's just started to go ahead and hit that, right? And now, after all this time of being on, you know, he's tired. You know, he's like, you know what? It's time for me to get a better life, right? So that's what we're seeing from you. And Nic, I want you to know, I understand. I mean, I don't. I've never been with like a Mariah, but I can imagine if I was, I'd probably be strung out too, my brother. Stay strong. I just want to give him that encouragement, all that trauma talk. We feel you.
Wow. That's all I'm going to say is wow. I will co-sign on the 12 because that's when he realized he was responding to his trauma from his divorce. So I will co-sign on that. But the rest of this, I don't know. I'm just going to let you have that because that's kind of like how Dame Dash had the conversation with Charlamagne the God, where he was like, you lack masculinity. As a matter of fact, recently on the Breakfast Club, Charlamagne the God had a conversation with Dame Dash, and throughout the show, Dame Dash kept hitting on him pertaining to his masculinity. He indicated that Charlamagne was not a representation of masculinity. And not only that, but I guess his co-host he didn't consider. He said, y'all not a representation or good representation of masculinity. So I'm just curious, what exactly does masculinity looks like today? And was Charlamagne or actually Dame Dash out of order for calling out these men on the Breakfast Club in regards to their masculinity?
Yeah, well, all right. So Dame Dash said Charlamagne doesn't represent masculinity. I don't know who voted for Dame Dash as a spokesperson for masculinity. I don't know where the conference was. I don't know why they entrusted him with the tickets or any of that stuff. I don't know who made him the keynote speaker, right? Because here's the thing. It's always the people who aren't a thing that's going around telling everybody else that the first ones to say who other people aren't, right? You don't see Elon Musk going around talking about who's not a billionaire, right? It's evident. He moves like a billionaire. He stands like a billionaire, right? So when he goes in the room, he doesn't go to all the poor people and go, you know what? You're not a billionaire. Because if you are a thing, it speaks for itself. When you got to tell somebody what you are, it's because you're not confident that it shows through on its own. So for while people see him standing there challenging Charlamagne's manhood, I see a man insecure in his own for the need that he need to poke at somebody else's. Dude, you couldn't stand on and represent it yourself. If your manhood was that, and I ain't got nothing against Dame Dash. I'm just saying with the conversation, the way it was approached. If your stance on manhood was that strong, you would have set a big enough contrast by your presence and by the way that you moved that the comparison and the contrast would have been clear. People would have been able to draw it for themselves. They wouldn't need you to draw them a map. Masculinity is it's not a checklist. It's not about who your boss was or how you got into your industry. It's not about who mentored you or who taught you the game of whatever you're going into or how flashy your money looks. Masculinity is about how you move, how you stand on your own 2 feet and you control your space in this world. That's masculinity. How you handle your responsibilities with integrity. That's masculinity. So when men police each other's masculinity, it just proves that we don't even agree on what it means. And I think the men who are questioning it are trying to find a definition they can live by, are trying to check their definition against other people to make sure, oh yeah, well, I must be good because I'm more masculine than that guy. Yo, be your own competition. Be more masculine than you were yesterday, and then you can win. And it doesn't matter who else is not doing what. So instead of gatekeeping manhood, I'd like to see more people model it. Do that.
Yeah, I didn't get the masculinity conference either. Dame fumbled the ticket, so don't feel bad. I was left out too. Maybe I don't qualify. I'm not sure. I do think it's kind of weird to do. Like, you guys aren't a man. Like, challenging them to push-ups, or back in the day, if somebody challenged your manhood, we had to go have a duel. We do slap you with the gloves. There's a pap pap, and now we got to go do 10 paces and fight our way out of this. And you know what? Masculinity is really going to look different from man to man. I mean, it's going to, the way you express it, the way it kind of manifests itself. It's not for me. It's going to look different for you, for Nick. Of course, there are going to be some commonalities, but there is subtlety and nuance in the way you execute it, and that's okay. Just because you do it different the way I do it, or vice versa, doesn't mean it's wrong. You're not a real man because you didn't do it the way the Delvin way. I mean, who am I? I just do what works for me and hope for the best. I especially doing it on the radio. That's weird. Calling people, not one man out. Most of the time, most guys wouldn't say it to their face, and doing it in the radio station, that's kind of a safe environment, because we know in most cases, you wouldn't do it in a club. You wouldn't do it in a bar. You wouldn't do it in a place where there wasn't security, where there's like a threat of actual physical testing of the masculinity. So I think doing it in a safe space is a little suspect too. And you questioning other people's manhood. I don't know if you're trying to do a vibe check. That's how it came across to me. But what you think, Nick? That's my 2 cents.
I mean, I don't know that people would question whether or not Dame Dash would throw hands with Charlamagne, so he felt comfortable to talk his talk because he was in a radio station. That wouldn't be necessarily the angle that I would take, because I do think that Dame has an experience and history of being able to stand up, at least. Because I think that's one of the things that he was talking to Charlamagne about, right? He was like, you've ran. It was a fight, people came at you, you ran. My masculinity says that I don't run, even if I got to take an ass whipping, right? So, I mean, Dame Dash for a very long time has stood on certain principles. And we'd be lying if we did not say that those might be old school principles, and that there were a more harsh or certain definition of masculinity. A man didn't do this, a man didn't do that. Like, that exists in the world that Dame grew up in, and probably the world that we did too, right? Boys Don't Cry was the beginning of defining masculinity. So I get that nowadays we want to be super PC and act like, sure, anybody can represent masculinity a certain type of way. That's not true. There are certain men or people who are born males who are feminine as hell. Like, they identify, they move like, they mimic, they take on the behaviors of, right, specifically. And it's funny because I often wonder, like, who defined that? But somebody did, for them to follow that, for them to define it for themselves and how they express themselves. So we want to pretend like this whole definition of masculinity isn't a thing. Now, yes, we can attack the messenger. We can say Dame is not qualified. I think the issue for him is that his credibility is certainly under fire. So it's fair, it's game to question Dame's credibility these days with all the announcement that he made and his financial situations. But one of the things, for example, he talked about was money. And he believes that men should move a certain type of way when it comes to money. So forget that he draws parallel to like his family office, and what he's really talking about is like complex ways that business people who are smart and brilliant organize their money to where they don't. So he had some good merit there, right? People just don't believe he's being for real, right? So it's funny because he might be giving you great information, but we're paying attention to the messenger, so maybe it gets lost on us whether or not, despite his foolery, that he's actually giving you gems that he might be applying himself, but you don't know. Right. So I get that Dame's credibility is shot right now, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't understand where he was coming from. I'd be lying if I said that, going back to the money piece, for example, can you be a man without taking care of yourself financially? Right. Some people might draw that line at saying, oh, okay, well, you're barely getting by. Okay, at least you're getting by. If you're $1 up, you're a man. Is that right? Right? Is that taking care of yourself? Are you taking care of your future? Or do you have enough? Right? Then you start to get with somebody, maybe you get married. Now you got the responsibility to them. Like, where do you draw masculinity and manhood? Because most men, to most men, if you're not making enough money to take care of your family, you might not feel like a man. Right? So there are certain hard and fast things that I think we still believe in when it comes to what masculinity looks like. I think Dame was trying to define it in terms of how men move. Me personally, like gossiping, Dame talked about, right? I mean, I guess we maybe people gossip like that. You know, what does your gossip sound like as a man? Is it the same as what women's sound like as a man? Should men be gossiping at all? Like, are there behaviors that we just feel like don't represent? Maybe it's not masculinity in totality, but maybe I'll say it's the acceptable version of masculinity. It's the hierarchical apex of how we define masculinity. So yes, maybe there are A type men and B and C, and we can account for all of them. But society would treat the low tier niggas like the low tier niggas that they are for a reason. I'm not saying that's just strictly based off of masculinity, but depending on the environment that you're in, like a club, for example, where women are looking for men who have a little bit of edge to them or whatever, do you think your feminine ass is going to be able to cultivate the type of romantic relationship with a woman who expects you to show up a certain type of way? Right? Even if her definition of masculinity isn't perfect or draped in toxicity or incorrect. But let's be honest, these things have been modeled for us. And so we're having the conversation about redefining them. If we're going to do that, it could be a hell of a slippery slope. But I don't think most people are down for that ride either. You know what I'm saying? We like our shit defined some. And me personally, I like my shit defined some. So I'm okay with defining it in a lens that I feel like I walk through life with. But I'll just say this much, that I think if you were to poll men who were born in the 70s and you start to define what masculinity, whether it's stoicism, whether it's how we, you know, the list of things, a lot of us will be like, yeah, that's apex nigga right there. You know what I'm saying? I get it. Not everybody can be an alpha. I feel sorry for the rest of y'all if y'all can't be comfortable being whatever y'all are. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't mean that you're masculine, though, or at least not the version that we're willing to accept. And that's something that you got to accept if you just fall into those categories.
See, that's crazy because I wonder, why do men feel the need to police masculinity so heavily against other men? It's always been a question. Yes.
So there's some men who believe that society functions a certain type of way, that men are built and have responsibility to do certain things. As much as we complain about leadership and all this other shit, the truth is most of us are still Neanderthals in terms of our expectation for how the society thing works, right? So yes, I get it. A free for everybody, right? If that's the case, then many of us who might be liberal may not want our kids to learn certain things, right? Because if it's free for all, everybody should be able to, no. There are certain parts of society that we deem, you know, worth at least speaking on, trying to control, keep on, you know, with good measure, right? The same way we talk about whether we should bring shame back. So I get it. Maybe it's like not the coolest thing. It's not something that I care to do, but I do get that in certain situations, men are going to call out certain behavior from men that's not manly. So if a guy sees a guy beating on his wife, should he not say anything? Is that a manly behavior? Is that him just standing up? Is there any part of him stepping in front of that masculine at all? Do we have expectations for men to do that? Right? So yeah, sorry. You know what I'm saying? As much as we want to pretend like it's a free for all, you need people, whether we agree with them or not, that speak to keeping the shit on the rails. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's like by societal pushes or whatever. Hopefully that answers your question. You're welcome.
It does answer my question, unless anybody else want to weigh in on that particular question. But I think you did it pretty succinct there. So I'm going to go ahead and roll with this. I think that technically, since as you can see, I'm not a man, so I'm not going to belabor this point too much. So I just think that for us, masculinity is consistency, accountability, and basically how men treat each other and treat women in particular, and how that shows up in our particular community, right? And so I do agree with Jay that when I see another man attacking another man's masculinity, I immediately think insecurity. But then my question becomes, what are they insecure about? But once again, I'm speaking from a woman's perspective when it comes to why I think it's insecurity, because I think masculinity and femininity are actually interchangeable in some cases, because we should have both those qualities in ourselves. We should be yin and yang. It's just to what extent masculinity presents itself in a man and to what extent femininity may present itself in a man. Likewise with a woman. And so I think that sometimes when we talk about masculinity and what masculinity is, especially in the Black community, when we identify Black women with masculine traits, we're actually doing a disservice. And I think that for men, sometimes that conversation can be kind of stagnant and show somewhat of a, I guess it it limits vulnerability and growth in that area. And part of it could be his era, right? It could be because he's a 70s babies and whatnot. And that's what there's traditional, like men are stoic, men are this and men are that. So I like the fact that you guys clarified that is more about how you move as a man, how you take care of your responsibilities as a man and that type of stuff. So I do like that, the clarification of that. I think ultimately, like, strength without accountability just equals chaos. So we have these apex predators that say they're all male, alpha males and so forth. And in reality, all they're doing is creating more chaos in some cases because they're not being held accountable to their actions, right? Some people say because Nick Cannon can procreate and drop seed like Johnny Appleseed, that he's an apex predator male. And was like, no, he created chaos and he left chaos in his wake. Now he can control that chaos, right? Because he can put financial literacy type or financial institutions in place and so forth. He can get healing and all that good stuff. At the end of the day, I'm just going to say that I think silence and ego and sometimes violence, because some reason some people equate masculinity with violence, actually have consequences for everybody, not just men, but also for women.
I'll be somewhat responsible and say that, yes, there is a problem with hypermasculinity. I think there has been a turn since the 90s where people are more open. So maybe Charlamagne represents slightly more evolved version of men, right? Being open to mental health and their emotional sides and therapy and stuff like that. I mean, to be honest, they both were talking shit to each other. The interview was like really a farce, if we're being honest. They were talking shit even before the interview. And so to try to glean whether or not, but I will say though, you guys are right that it seemed like Dame was explaining a lot. And I think that's one thing that was clear for many people. It's like, bro, you care way too much what other people think. And it just came across that way. And that's just a way that most of us have not been used to seeing him, especially on the Breakfast Club, right? Speaking of, masculine women, no, we weren't really speaking of, I mean, SNM did mention it. And I'm not saying Whoopi is masculine by any means, although sometimes her garb and her attire does not really give the whole feminine. But that's not the point that we're trying to make here, right? What Whoopi did say, though, came to light recently that we thought, I mean, she do be dressing kind of like, you know what I mean? So I'm not, but anyways. So recently, I think Whoopi was like, there was rumors maybe that she was getting ready to quit The View or maybe retire or whatever. And she cleared that shit the fuck up. She was like, I'm not retired after 18 seasons. You kidding me? I didn't marry well. You know what I mean? So a bitch got to keep on working is what she said, right? And I thought that was fascinating because she's like the original, rich auntie kind of, right? Like, I mean, listen, let's be honest. She was married 3 times. I did not know this. She was married 3 times in 77, 83, and 94. So she gave love a chance, right? And she had kids. So technically, unlike the rest of y'all who got this whole rich auntie thing going, y'all ain't got no kids. They don't have any. At least she had the company. 3 guys married her, okay? So, cool. So she's technically not the traditional rich auntie, but I think some of y'all use her because y'all ain't know she was married. How many people, did y'all know she was married 3 times? I thought Ted Danson was in there, but you know she was married 2 times? Okay, I didn't know she was married. I mean, I was like, who'd marry her? But anyway, that's the point. Except for Ted Danson, because I thought like that was the whole...
The shade.
Yeah, I knew about 2. I didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't know about the third one.
Man,
no, I'm not saying I felt that way. This is what I felt like people thought who did not know that she was married. Because I thought she was married to Ted Danson. You know what I'm saying? White boys do be married to ugly black girls sometimes. So I was like, okay, maybe that made sense.
The shade. Oh my God.
You know what I'm talking about? Like, it'd be like the white boys be going really, you know what I mean? They don't care. They be going oof-oof with it. But anyways, so the point is that I think there was a question. Oh, yes. So do you guys, because she said she didn't marry well. So I'm kind of torn. She had 3 tries at it. It didn't work out. And she attributes not marrying well to not being able to retire. So let me frame it this way. Is what she said a warning shot to all the women out there who are thinking about the whole rich auntie lifestyle? The fact that, yes, she has a career, she has a beautiful home, but she's saying she doesn't have enough money right now to retire, and it's because she didn't marry well. Is this a warning for some of these women out here who imagine themselves to being Whoopi, but more attractive?
I think this is highlighting a larger thing that we're going to see going forward with the low marriage rates. And not only that, the low birth rates when women get, in their, golden years and there's no husband, there's no kids to take care of you. You're going to have to keep working. Most of you are. There's going to be a very, very tiny percentage of rich aunties, and Whoopi's at the apex of that. Whoopi's probably going to be fine. I mean, she may have to scale back her lifestyle a little bit, but I think she's going to land on her feet. It's going to be okay. But she highlights a larger thing that we're going to see in society. We call it the she economy. They already have reports, and they're telling a lot of these companies, hey, put out a lot of products that older women, especially older single women, are going to need. Invest in that stuff. Get your portfolios together, because that's going to be a thing. So I think she's bringing up something that we really need to pay attention to in society, because it's not going to just affect her or the woman individual. This is something we're all going to have to play a part in as a whole, as a group, in dealing with a lot of elderly, single, childless women who can't afford to retire and stop working. They're not going to be on the beach in Jamaica getting the gray clay rubbed on their legs by the young hard body guys. You know, you're going to have to be working well into your 70s probably. They're already talk from economists saying a lot of people, men and women, aren't going to be able to retire. And this is going to hit the women pretty hard. So I think we need to pay attention to what Whoopi's saying and pay attention to this story and try to figure out how we navigate it. Because right now we can't make women get married. They say they don't want to be married. They want to be boss babes. They want to be leaders. And okay, cool. But what does that look like 20, 30 years out? You know, you're 25, you're 30, even you're 35 now. Okay, great. Have you played this out all the way? Have you thought about this? And a lot of times they haven't. So when you're Whoopi's age and you look back on this, you're like, man, are you going to regret it? I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think there's a lot to unpack here. A lot to unpack here. Okay, so first, if Whoopi Goldberg, after decades in Hollywood, all of these movies, being on The View longer than some children have been alive, she says she can't afford to retire. That should scare somebody. Maybe not everybody, but somebody should really be looking at their account and their financial planning right now and asking themselves, have they done the math properly, right? Because if Whoopi ain't straight, what chance does this chick who's working a 9-to-5 at Burger King have, really? Right? If Whoopi brought in all that money and then she could not, at her age, make the ends meet, y'all in trouble. You're in trouble. And I know we go, well, maybe Whitney was bad with her. Whoopi was bad with her money, right? But I think it might be even bigger than overspending, right? Because that's the easy thing. The easy thing to say is she needed better money management, right? She needed somebody to teach her, the financial markets and a little more financial intelligence or whatever. But maybe it's about how Black entertainers get underpaid, right? Maybe it's how they get undercut. Maybe it's how that we don't get as many movies and roles, right? How we're left out and we're usually just a token in a movie, right? Unless we do like Black Panther and we do a movie where that's all of us. Of course, I don't even know if we can do that anymore now with the current administration and their anti-DEI hires. I don't even know if you can have an all-Black cast because you're like, I was set out to hire all Black people. That might throw you in jail nowadays. It's crazy. But I digress. It's about how when Whoopi says that women should marry correctly, something makes me pause, right? Like marriage is the retirement plan. Let me wake some of you women up, okay? If you plan to be a trophy wife, right? If you plan to live off somebody else's retirement and their planning, you better cash that check in when you're young and fresh, when you're a spring chicken, okay? Not when you're the old rotisserie hen on the Walmart rack. It ain't time for that. It's too late. Your time is past, okay? So that's not romance. It's a setup. It's insurance. It's not even fair. And it highlights a double standard that men are expected to be self-sufficient and then women are told to go secure a man who was self-sufficient, right? I can tell you for a fact that I've met women who have told me that even though they made a lot of money, they never, ever really invested in their retirement or in what they were going to do on the sunset side of life because they just knew they'd find a man and they just knew that man was going to break them off something. And they were wrong. The truth is, both genders need financial literacy. Love might keep you warm at night, but money is what pays the bills when the lights go off. And money can't buy love. And love can't buy money.
I was rocking with you for some of that, and then you kind of lost me kind of towards the end. But you know what, though? It's good. I got you on this. So I will say that first, I think there's a misconception when we talk about...
Sade. That was Sade. That was Sade.
So I think there's a misconception when we talk about when men state that women use marriage as a retirement plan. And I say this because marriage and money has always been tied together for both men and women. When we talk about building generational wealth, when we talk about building in general, it's always been tied together. And so saying that it's a retirement plan, I think that's a disservice because it's all about building partnership, being interdependent and so forth. Now, what I will say is that Whoopi did wake up something that many women aren't ready to face, and that's the financial reality of being a single woman, especially considering that there's a lot of wage gap and disparity still, as well as the fact that she didn't plan correctly. You know, she said the key word is she didn't say getting married to retire. She said marry correctly, because if you don't marry correctly, and this is for men and women, but she talks from a woman's perspective, you can end up bankrupt. You can end up losing a lot of money. There's a lot of ramifications when you don't marry correctly. And that's what she was emphasizing, was to marry correctly. Not just marry, but marry correctly. And we're not talking about that piece of it. We're just assuming she's saying this is a retirement plan. And that's not what she was saying. She was saying that, hey, if you're going to get married, which she strongly encouraged, by the way, based on the way I interpret that comment, then marry correctly, because that's the only way you're going to survive. And I think that for her to be at her big old age, though, and have been married 3 times, I wonder what they took from her in those marriages. Because, you know, back in the day, because she was a Black woman and she was married to white men, I believe 2 of them walked away with alimony. And so it's like there's a possibility that she may have suffered from what many men complain about when their spouses or exes walk away with alimony. And that's also could be why she said marry correctly. I just want to say that financial literacy and intentional partnership is the real formula for retirement, not a women just trying to get the bag and marry for retirement. We're not trying to be trophy wives. Well, maybe some are. Let me not, you know, some are trying to be trophy wives, but that's not what Whoopi was saying here. So I just want to say that I think that at the end of the day, because we do face longer life expectancy, as in we're more likely to outlive our husbands and men in general, then it is important for us to marry correctly. It is important to have that financial planning and so forth in place.
First of all, I want to thank Whoopi for what she said, because it reminded me of a point that Kevin Samuels used to make all the time. Because I think for some people, he was trying to paint the reality that, are you even thinking about your retirement? Like, what does that look like, right? In terms of, are you saving? He would always bust down the numbers. And he was talking to these women. It was clear that many of them didn't have a plan for real, right? And so with Whoopi's remarks, you would say, hey, Whoopi's been married. Maybe she didn't marry correctly. She's been famous. She's made a lot of money. And we can try to count her pockets, but I believe her to a certain extent, right? I do believe that maybe she could have been joking, but there's a part of her that says, you know, to maintain my lifestyle, I have to keep working. So we discount her because she's a celebrity, but there's a lot of people who have been in a position where they're around her age or older who've had to continue to work on some level because the ends ain't really meeting the way they need to, right? And unfortunately, when some of these programs and safety nets are being cut, et cetera, there's less money available to people. You know, we heard about all the different companies who went belly up, like people who lost their money in the 2000, I think it was 8 stock market crash a while back, where there's a lot of people who followed the rules and did what they were supposed to do, but things were not there for them when it was their turn. And so they're out here struggling. So this is something that's been going on. So the idea that some people are voluntarily saying, I'm going to choose this life for what? Because you're incapable of meeting people, of talking to people, of fostering good relationships. It's insane to me the level of which people will go to avoid accountability. And I'm just talking about not Whoopi. I mean, I give Whoopi all the credit in the world. She was married. She tried it 3 times. It didn't work out. Now, if she married some white dudes who took advantage of her, should that be another cautionary tale for some of y'all that feel like the grass is greener over there? Because it's not the first time that we've heard of sisters getting taken for a little alimony by the white dudes. And I get it. Kendu did do is that as well. But shit, he saw what they were doing and learned. So, hey, right? Why should we not? Should we let, oppression stop the Black man from taking advantage of the system too? Get the fuck out of here. Or maybe you should marry one and find out. But the point is that I can see why she's at the point in her life where she's done with marriage. Cool. She's did it. I think she talked about it recently. Like, she's not trying to get married. Her relationship, her life is where it is. She's comfortable. So she's like a lot of people who are so comfortable being single that at this point she's a lost cause on that. So I give her credit and grace for just accepting that about where she's at right now. But she did her time. She did 3 of them. She has some kids. She had to move it. But the rest of y'all, what are you going to have? Like, for real. Like, who's going to be there for you? You think your family members, your girlfriends, your homies and all that is going to be there when the sunset of life? Many of them pass away if you're fortunate enough to, like, I just don't think people really get what that life can look like when you have not invested in other people. It looks like loneliness. Like, it looks like you being somewhere where nobody's coming to visit you for real, for real. Them cousins, them nieces that you was all comfortable with, they're living their lives. They're not coming to check up on you. Sorry. Right? So I'm not trying to scare nobody. I'm saying, like, if you're 35 or wherever you are in life and you have not thought about your retirement, fuck a man for a second, right? Fuck him. Have you yourself talked about what your game plan is going to be? How much money you're going to need to live? You still have time. If you haven't done that, you're in a fucked up situation, okay? Because time is running out for you. And it just shows that if you don't get it together now, you never will. So there's a larger conversation. Y'all be thinking y'all got the luxury of making some of these choices when you don't. It's not that hard. It's simple math. Go to ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT how much your ass is going to need to survive at a certain age if you want to stop working, to account for inflation as well. Then ask Chat, hey, based off of how much money I make right now, am I going to be able to make it or survive? And then finally ask it, well, what if you put two people together? You know, you put your 40 together, put my 40 together. You know, if two people share a one bedroom, it's half the price. I mean, that's probably just a simple equation, but some of y'all be making life a lot harder than it has to be. So let Whoopi be a warning. It ain't gonna be that sweet. The economy is getting even worse. You know what I'm saying? Like, everything is fucked up right now. And you think the pandemic should have taught some of y'all that doing it alone was not going to be a good look. Some of y'all ain't have no nigga to help you change shit around the apartment or around the house. You can't even go outside and throw your pussy out there to get some dick to help you around the house because niggas scared of the panty, right? Y'all knew what it was like, right? So why would you voluntarily set yourself up for a retirement of that? Why? When all you got to do is go get some counseling, figure out the trauma that maybe your mom or your father put you through that didn't allow you to learn how to have healthy relationships with another adult, right? Take some financial literacy classes and roll the dice. I promise you, it's probably way better than the bullshit that y'all are on right now. Thank you, Whoopi, for being honest and for finding somebody to love you at once upon a time and marry you. You know what I'm saying? There's still hope. That's something else that y'all could take from Whoopi. If Whoopi can get married 3 times, not once, not twice, but 3 times, and you can't find nobody, come on, man. Even if he's white, fuck it. You know what I'm saying? You know what? You couldn't find him with a white man. All right, at least you got one in. She found 3. I'm sorry, y'all.
They're not even getting a call back, Nick.
I
Right?
said, Lord have mercy on this one.
Whoopi got married 3 times. Y'all can't get a text back.
Let's not. So first of all, let's just acknowledge that Whoopi did grow up in an era where marriage still mattered. Nowadays, marriage does not matter to men and women in most cases, especially in our community, which is why we have the lowest rates. So let's recognize that as well.
Well, it's not the same, okay? Men value marriage more in 2025 than women do. I'm going to go on the record and say it. I'm going to go on the record and say it. And you can tell because the conversations that men are having is, hey, why won't you be a suitable wife? And women are saying, I don't even know if I want to be married, right? It's a different conversation. Talk about it.
So I will acknowledge that it is a different conversation. But I'm also going to say this. The reason why it's a different conversation is because from our previous episode where we talked about the evolvement of men, it's because some women felt like it's too little, too late, and they're not willing to take that risk. But also, I will acknowledge the conversation is different because men actually benefit, even though y'all going to say no, they don't. But studies show that men actually benefit more from marriage still, contrary to what popular belief is. And that includes living longer because you got a woman over there telling you to go to your doctor appointments and making them for you in some cases and some other stuff. But anyways, with that being said, so you are correct. The conversation is completely different between men and women as it pertains to marriage.
Listen, we all got choices to make. Like, wrapping up this show is going to be the one that we're going to make here because I feel like we done beat a horse to death or a dead horse. I'm not calling Whoopi that. I'm saying we're tired of the conversation. Y'all really got to stop. There will be no Whoopi hate. We love her. She is a legend. So these are all jokes. Whoopi's a comedian. If anybody took what I said as serious, I was just kind of joking. Any final thoughts? I feel like this has been a fantastic episode per usual, right? Any final thoughts before we get out of here? We want to start with ladies first?
Yay!
Ooh, ladies
I was
first.
just had that song in
Ladies
my head. I'm
first.
glad you can tell. That's what I was
I got
thinking.
you. I
Okay,
got
so
you.
I think that tonight's show was basically about like beauty, power, masculinity, and money, and how that shapes our relationships. And I think the common thread through it all is that these things affect us to such an extent, it contributes to how we value each other as people. And if we don't value each other as people, it may show up as pretty punishment. It may show up as a trauma response and dropping 12 kids, because you was traumatized from someone else who didn't value you. And it may even show up in a conversation pertaining to masculinity, such as we saw in Dame Dash and Charlamagne the God case. I think at the end of the day, all of us just need to heal. I'm going to keep it short and simple. We all need to heal, because if we keep mistaking privilege for punishment and trauma for freedom and marriage for survival versus partnership, then we're going to continue on this hell to hand basket or basket to hand. What's the phrase? Basket.
Hell in a hand
Thank
basket.
you. I knew it was something like that. We're going to continue on that path. And that's how I'm going to land right there.
Yes, hell in handbaskets. Appreciate that. Get your, matter of fact, we should get like merch, hell in handbaskets, so something like that. Yeah, we were gonna come up with shit on the spot. Jay, any final thoughts before we get up out of here?
Yeah, no, I great episode. Enjoyed it always, of course. Conversation's fire. I think my takeaway from tonight is that I think we got to be more intentional about our ownership, about owning who we are, about owning our past, owning our trauma, and just standing and being comfortable in who we are, examining ourselves, taking stock of who we are, and then being comfortable with that. If you're not comfortable with it, then you fix it. Then once you fix it, then stand on it. I just want to finally just say in parting, masculinity is how you move. Your masculinity is not how you measure another man. Right? Do you, man. Be a man. If the world ain't doing it, show the world what it look like. And then STFU.
Yes, thank you for that, Jay. And Del, what are you expertising on as we conclude tonight's episode?
You know what? We did pretty privilege and its inverse, pretty punishment. And I think as helpful as therapy is, therapy speak is something that I really hope we leave in 2025. But having said that, trauma is something that people process differently, and it shows up in different people in the same experience. When we talked a lot about divorce, I don't know if there's any right way to do divorce, separation. In Nick Cannon's case, in the other cases we talked about divorce, you've got to find a way to process it. And look, there's no right way to do it. I think there's more healthy ways than not, but at some point, get the help, get the therapy, and have a little introspection and process it as best you can. And if you need help, that's okay. Sometimes we always need a guide, and we need help to navigate through things that are difficult, especially if there's no textbook way to do it. So be blessed, have discernment. Love you guys, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for that, Delvin. As you were speaking, there's a word that kind of came to mind for me, and that was perspective. Like, it's amazing how like a perspective can just change literally your entire outlook and probably like your future or your present, for example, right? So, for example, when Nick Cannon and Mariah Carey broke up, I can see how he had a perspective on it, right? Maybe he was shattered, maybe he was broken, like maybe he felt, not enough, right? And that was his perspective on it. And so maybe he ended up absorbing it a certain type of way, and we all saw what kind of happened from that. There was a different perspective that could have happened. Like for me, a lot of times when something happens, I could just switch the perspective or reframe it. It's one of my favorite words and tools that I've learned, right? So for example, recently I had a breakup, right? And I was hurt by that breakup. I really, really was, because I felt like I did everything that I was supposed to do in the relationship. And I felt kind of betrayed a little bit, because when you show up a certain type of way, you at least expect to be able to have a conversation, et cetera, et cetera. Now, my perspective could have been, man, fuck people. And it is a little bit, right? But if I go down that path, now any potential future relationship, I'll look at it through that lens. The other perspective is, this was probably the best thing that could have happened. Why? Because now it opens up the door for maybe to find the right person to be with. Doesn't mean that now I have to go out here wilding out because one person did me a certain type of way. Instead, I look at adversity sometimes as an opportunity. That's the reframe, right? It could be a bad thing that happened. This person left me, but maybe the best thing the person could have done for me was to leave me. Why? Because there's opportunity abound. Maybe I found the person I was supposed to really be with. Maybe I found the job I was supposed to really have. Oftentimes, bad shit happens to us, and our perspective allows us to go down a certain path. I just choose to do the one that allows me to learn and to grow and to still be positive about what's ahead of me, as opposed to paying attention to what's behind me. So I hope for y'all's sake, or at least maybe for Nick's, he has a better perspective on life. But you'll be surprised at how much that perspective can change not only your present, but also your future. So with that being said, on behalf of SNM Jones, Delvin the Expert, Jay, not just Jay, the full Jay, you heard what I'm saying? I'm your boy, Nic Nice, a.k.a. Big Nick Energy. Don't forget, use the code BLC Pod to get that money off on the girls trip. We about to glow up! Don't forget the merch, too. We got the merch up. Pew, 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 pew. And please, 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 please don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and all that good stuff. We really appreciate y'all. We'll see y'all next time. Until then, be easy. Peace.
Hello.
Pew, 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 pew. And coming back for a little overdrive. That's right. We're going to get right into it. We're going to get in, get out, get in. But no, seriously. It's funny because, obviously we try to stick to the topics. This one, I think the news broke late yesterday for the most part, like after we did the pre-pro. I'm sure people by now have heard that Jimmy Kimmel's show got indefinitely suspended from ABC. Obviously, this goes all the way up to the White House. I believe the FCC appointed chairperson, the FCC chairman appointed by the Trump administration, if I'm not mistaken, was basically throwing his weight around. And apparently ABC caved. And so Jimmy Kimmel, after making some remarks in regards to what happened with the whole Charlie Kirk, I guess we'll call it an assassination. I don't want to say anything to get us in trouble. I mean, but from who though? Anyways, so apparently people are in uproar. Is this First Amendment rights? Like, what's happening? Like, are we in America? Is this America still? So we have thoughts about this whole thing. We had to talk about it because we talk too. And so who knows what can happen when you're talking and how people are moving, especially at this level. We have thoughts about this.
I'm concerned. I'm really concerned. You said, like, is this America? It's not the America we grew up in. And I don't know when we're going to see that America again anytime soon. I think this is only the beginning, or maybe we're just like getting into and accelerating into the deterioration of the things we came to believe were just American values and American principles, like freedom of speech, right? Comedians used to be able to tell a joke because people knew they were telling a joke, right? So that you had the creative license there, right? And what he said, I'm not going to repeat what he said. You can go play what he said. What he said was not unreasonable. It was not unreasonable. It may have made somebody feel bad or whatever, but the young man who was killed said things that made people feel bad. No one, and he didn't deserve to be killed for that, and he didn't deserve to get canceled, right? It's a free country. We are used to champion the ability for different ideas to be heard in the public square so that people could weigh it out and decide what they were going to believe in and what they were going to follow. Now we're in the midst of an administration that is systemically rolling back and unwrapping these protections and creating such an era of fear for even speaking anything against the president or his agenda, that, I mean, there's beginning to be very little difference in what I think it would feel like living in North Korea and living in America, right? They've defunded public media. They defunded so many things that were in the middle, and they are purposely backing things that are very far right. Matter of fact, the FCC guy, when he said what he said that made ABC pull Jimmy Kimmel off the air, he wasn't at a press conference. He didn't tweet it. He was doing a podcast or a radio show of some right-wing guy. And he was like, yeah, if they don't take Jimmy Kimmel down, then the FCC is going to have to do some extra work. Now, the backdrop of this is ABC is trying to get a deal. Now, excuse me, a company that is a very big part of ABC's success is trying to get a cable merger, right? And they carry Jimmy Kimmel, and when they caught the heat, that's what forced ABC to pull him back. So it was like a domino effect. But my big problem here is My big problem is the intentional silencing of dissent, to creating an atmosphere of fear where you cannot express any sort of dissent, no matter how reasoned, right? And that's just not what we were founded on as a country. It's a dangerous time. It's a real dangerous time.
I agree that it's a dangerous time. I actually think it's ironic as well because he technically did not talk per se. He actually talked about the people's response to it and how they tried to say that it was anybody but, and how even one person, won't say his name, was like, oh, we hope that we prayed for 33 hours that it was not one of us, basically, because he wanted it to be somebody else, because he didn't want it to be somebody that looked like them. All he did as a comedian was point that out, which was true and factual. What I find ironic, though, is that one of the first executive orders that went out there was about the censorship from the government censorship and overreach. And is this not government censorship and overreach? Because are you not respecting a private company ability to do what a private company can do within its own stance? And not only that, what concerns me, actually, is the fact that we yell freedom of speech. They were yelling freedom of speech, but not for anything pertaining to this person. Freedom of speech. They made multiple memes and actually did skits of George Floyd. They did skits of Trayvon Martin, and it was no big deal. It was just free speech. But now somebody just talked about something that somebody said directly out their own mouth, and now it's an issue. So is it really, it's the hypocrisy for me. And I think that's also where we're seeing this, overreach. And the last thing I would say is that because of this whole political business minded aspect of it, this is one of the problems with having media being controlled by basically 5 companies, or supposedly, allegedly by 5 companies, because it's easier to pressure them when something such as media is in the hands of very few. And so therefore, they're more likely to cave into pressure because they still have a business aspect that they want to accomplish, and they can only accomplish that through the approval of the government. And this is what my concern is that this is, to me, this is exactly what government overreach looks like. However,
Yeah, I mean, as interesting as cancel culture being wielded by the other side, who's decried it for 5 or 10 years. That's interesting. But in this particular case, I didn't think it was a really big deal. I did a little digging, and what I found was they were planning on getting into his show anyway. I think like next year or maybe like the year after. They've already ended Stephen Colbert's show. I think this was a convenient way to just end his show now. That's my personal opinion. They were going to do it anyway. Like, okay, look, let's just get him up out of here now. This is the response doesn't really equate to what he actually said, and you guys were all completely accurate about that. So it seems a bit disproportional. I think they planned on getting him up out there anyway. This was just their way to do it now.
Wow. I feel like this story is a lot of nuance to a certain extent, right? Because it's not like the government directly did anything. If I understood what occurred, somebody said something, and then the other side decided to do something based off what somebody said. Now, I get it that it's implied that there's risk. If you have a merger on the table with the FCC, then yes, the chairperson or whoever they make decide to fuck you up. But they didn't necessarily. I guess kind of what I'm getting at to a certain extent is, where's the balls at? From the front to back. It's a song, right? Wrong song. Anyways, the point I'm trying to make is, right? Sorry, is where the girls at. Never mind. Where the girls at? From the front to back. And when you can. Anyways, but no, in all seriousness, because from what I understood, a lot of people, this administration has made a lot of overtures in court. And by and large, most of the time, they've lost, right? For people who decide to actually fight, they lost. Because Trump is litigious, and people can bully and muscle people if they know they can use the system against them, right? Like even with the whole Harvard thing, Harvard had to expend a lot, but Harvard had a lot, though. Like, it's not like Harvard is in a poorhouse. They can't afford to mount a credible defense, because all that money that you have, all that endowment, like, what the fuck is it not for than to protect yourself, to be able to function in the way that you've always have? So what I'm saying is that too often it seems like people be so quick to like give up, fold, and whatever. So maybe you guys are right. There could be other motives, but we've seen people fold a lot. And when I say people, I mean the left, right? Like, what I get tired of is the woe is me. I wake up when y'all do something about it. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm so indifferent. It's not even funny. That's part of the reason why I'm looking for an escape route for real, because I can't even band with y'all because y'all ain't gonna really fight for real. The fact that we can't even talk freely sometimes speaks to how pussy we are as a society. So it's like, I see what's happening. I see what's about to come. So the best that we can do is prepare accordingly, right? Now, if you want me to talk about the nuance of it all, listen, they could threaten whatever. The government did not take an official action to stop an individual from saying a motherfucking thing. People who have power use influence all the fucking time. You know what I'm saying? I hate that it sucks. You know, Colin Kaepernick, I mean, we've seen the litany of times that between commerce and making the right decision for the sake of commerce, that people do that shit all the time. Right. And it may not necessarily be directly the violation of the First Amendment. The First Amendment says that Nick should be able to say something and I can't get jailed or imprisoned or whatever. But it doesn't mean that I have the right to do business necessarily. Like, where is that in the Constitution where I have a right to a merger? Is that in the Constitution too? So yeah, they're playing big boy games for real. Right. And so that's one. The other side is the, relying on platforms. I think we already knew that. Like, what's funny is before the right, I guess it's the right doing it to Jimmy. I remember during the pandemic, anybody that had anything to say that wasn't lock, stock, and barrel with the left was being censored, deplatformed even, right? People who were credible doctors their entire fucking lives, but because they were not with the program, these platforms, maybe not ABC, but these other tech platforms were deplatforming people because they didn't like what the fuck they were talking about. So I guess now the left, are you awake now? Do you have a problem with it now? Because guess what? I had a problem with it then. But now because it happened to fuck Jimmy Kimmel, there's no disrespect to Jimmy Kimmel. I just don't fucking care. I didn't watch the show. You know what I'm saying? Maybe if this helps get y'all to care, then great, do something about it. But wake me up when y'all do. And I mean like beyond the whole marching shit, because y'all talk a lot of shit. This shit's under attack. Right? So if everybody with eyes can feel like, oh my God, the country's under attack, then what the fuck are you doing about it? That's why I low-key don't want to talk politics. I get upset. For what? If we ain't gonna do shit about it. It's like getting mad for no reason. And then I gotta go back to my wife and try to have dinner and sex maybe later. Like, what the fuck? Why would I do that to me and the enjoyment that we're planning for later? Just to fucking boo-hoo with y'all. I'm not saying y'all, because I get it. There's some serious implications. I'm not making light of it. I'm just saying, and ... What are y'all gonna do about it? Because I'm tired of hearing it. It just fucked up. It's crazy, but fuck it. You know what I'm saying? If we ain't gonna do shit about it. I mean, dead ass. I mean, let me ask y'all, what at this point, with all the shit that we see happening, what do you legitimately expect people to do about this? If anything, except shut the fuck up.
Legit, all they can do is shut the fuck up. Honestly, shut the fuck up, get your passport, find somewhere you feel safe and go be there. Because the institutions that were in place to protect you for your speaking up and your moving, they are now all marshaled against you and they are now in the president's personal pocket, right? So, for instance, the Justice Department has become his own little place where he sends them out to dig up dirt or prosecute people. If he wants a new Fed governor or Fed chair, he digs up some dirt and he starts prosecuting them. He's using the Justice Department to enact his own personal grudges, which I say is very totalitarian. It's very North Korea. It's very Russian. It's very oligarchy. It's very not democratic. So shut the fuck up, get your money right, and go sit down somewhere.
It's very American, though.
Is it American?
No, is American.
It's not. If it was American, we'd have been doing it like this the whole time.
So you think there's a reason why we don't love these gangster movies? You don't think there's a reason why America has an infatuation with the archetype?
America has an infatuation with violence.
I mean, you know what I'm saying, though, Jay. You know what I'm saying.
There's a level of statesmanship. Yes, strongman is whatever, but there's also
John Wayne.
There's also in America the ethic of fair play, or at least some superficial performance of fair play. Right? We have thrown it out now. It is just like, give me the fucking theater. Okay, make me at least feel like I have some rights and some say so and some freedoms again. Give me the theater, or let me get the fuck out.
No, I think I think Nick is right. That's why people like Don Corleone say, I'm gonna make an offer he can't refuse. So yeah, that's what's happening.
Yeah, I was going to say, so I'm going to do first the comment for this. This is America. Just like Childish Gambino said, this is America. In every shape, way, and form, this is America. And to be honest, the reason why he made it into the office was because a lot of people like the fact that he was like, yo, I'm doing this, all the bravado that he had, right? They viewed him as the ultimate alpha. That's why he made it into the office in some cases. But we know also why he made it into the office. But with that being said, I will also just add this. The reason why no one is actually going to do anything about it is because they're still operating under the illusion that we have Congress. They're still operating under the illusion that there are still freedoms and certain freedoms that's still in place, and they're hoping that Congress will kick in. So a lot of people are waiting till that midterm election and assuming there's going to be a blue wave or some type of wave that's going to come and clean the slate. And so therefore we are going to be quiet and sit in the corner and suck it up because we're saying, hey, Congress will come through for us. We're going to march. Well, actually we saw marching does not actually work, but they're like, we're going to write letters. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. So there are people who are moving to do something. The problem is it's not necessarily moving the needle. And then some people just don't want to do anything because, like Nick pointed out, Trump is, or not Trump, I'm just going to say this administration is okay with litigation, right? And so a lot of people don't have the money, the wherewithal, or anything to do the litigation that's going to be required for some of these things. And so ultimately they're going to say, get out and vote. That's what their response is going to be for everything that's transpiring. Get out and vote. We got to vote, blah, 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 blah. And we'll see what happens.
Listen, I'll say this in closing. Sometimes you do got to go through bad things to appreciate the good. Maybe so many of us have just ridden the coattails of America that we forgot what it was like when people had to fight for their rights. So even though our rights are kind of, I guess, maybe being attacked right now, we've so used to having them that we don't know like what's in store for us. So maybe sometimes you got to get built to ass to get motivated to make change for real. I just don't. It's almost like a crackhead, right? Like you got to hit rock bottom. Maybe the problem is, as America, we have not hit rock bottom, and maybe we need to hit rock bottom to maybe change some shit, right? Because I don't see anything change anytime soon. But with that said, hey, listen, anybody want to sell some stuff, right? So I got my sealing shit off. Jay, you want to talk about Goodwoods real quick, or you think I see that you're ready for the moment?
I was, man. Mute. I was running. I was talking on mute. I was like, yeah, thank you. I thought you'd never ask. Yeah.
Well, Goodwoods.
Yeah, man. Goodwoods, we're coming out with a new, smaller version. Set to launch coming out this fall. So you get not just one, but two Goodwoods when you get one. And I've been inspired. I too will have a BLC Pod coupon code that you can use on the Goodwoods site. Get yourself a discount. It's love for everybody out here.
Yeah. So the BLC Pod.
The BLC Pod.
Okay. That's right. Listen to that. BLC Pod get you coupons anyway. S&M. You gonna make it 3 for 3 or not? What we doing?
What we doing?
No pressure though. No
You know what? I'm all for it. We can make it 3 for 3 with the BLC Pod. But I got to figure out how that works on the various websites though, because on my personal website, I just connect to other websites so that I don't have to put in the work to do the. So anyway,
she'll get back to you.
I'll have to figure it out.
We'll get back to you.
Right. Or just keep going there and put it in until it works.
That's what she said.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
I think all of us saw that one. I guess Delvin got to the rim first. Pause. Anybody else selling anything before we get up out of here?
The early bird tickets for Houston Cigar Week are on sale. I know my BLC family is going to be there. We're going to do our man on the street. You guys going to have a blast. Get your tickets now. HoustonCigarWeek.com. You guys check us out. Be there or be nowhere. Next year, May 2026.
We forgot the discount code because then it'll be 4 for 4, especially for the BLC Pod folks who's going to be there,
I got to get that together. Please get together.
Can't have people pay full price. We can't.
If we're going to be selling tickets, the little BLC Pod, give us 5%, 10%, something, my brother.
Yeah, we'll get something off the top.
It's early bird too, man. If somebody buy early on our behalf, we deserve to get a really good.
A little something.
It's almost a year out, damn near. All right, who want to close it out? Who want to close it out before we get out of here? Jay, you want to close it out?
Yo, as always, we want you to continue to hit that like button, subscribe, share your comments, man. Post this out. We want to hear your thoughts. We love it. Even if it's heat, even if it's fire, you ain't got to agree with us. It's a conversation. That's what we're here for. So lock it in. Be back next week. We're going to be here. On behalf of myself, Just Jay, Mr. Nic Nice, SNM Jones. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That was inappropriate. SNM Jones and Delvin the Expert. Yo, we love y'all and good night.